Welcome back to Crowd Control, one of our last episodes of the year, and this is a big one. We're going to have two special episodes. Today is pretty special because we're going to be talking about some of the biggest and most exciting crowdfunding campaigns of the year 2023. I think we've probably covered all of these.
A lot of these we've covered. A lot of these are games that spoke to us, that we're excited about, that did really well. So we've got a mix. We've got 10 games that we want to talk about today. And then we'll be back next week to talk about what's coming in 2024.
Yes.
Because we get a little bit of information on what's coming, so we know a little bit enough to speculate on some of those games.
A little bit, but I'll be honest, we have some work to do to research that between now and then.
So let's jump in. Let's talk about, like I said, some of our favorite games from 2023, some of the bigger campaigns. Let's start with one that we got, it's close to our hearts because we got to see this game early. This is Witcher Path of Destiny. We got to see this at Gen Con. And it was pretty obvious, I think, from the get-go that this was going to do really well on Kickstarter.
Well, yeah, it's from Go On Board, the people who did The Witcher Old World, and I think that's the tale of the numbers here. A lot of these campaigns are people who have built-in established fan bases, but the Path of Destiny was a very different game than Old World, and it did 4.4 million.
Yeah, it did really well.
Which was massive. I can't remember what Old World did.
No, but Old World did a lot too.
It did. I don't know that it did that much.
But when we're talking about audiences, this is actually quite the achievement though, because this is like really only their second big game. Like they had that, and then so like they have a kind of an established audience. It helps that they have the great Witcher IP, and that they're all big fans of The Witcher. And so I think that if the first Witcher game hadn't gone over well with fans, then this one would not. So obviously, like they earned a lot of goodwill by making such a great game.
The next one is someone also who has established quite the track record, and this was one of the first probably the biggest campaign and the first big campaign on BackerKit, right?
Yeah, it was their like launch. I would say like their launch campaign for BackerKit crowdfunding.
Yeah, this was Gloomhaven, the Grand Festival is what they called it, and this was sort of all things Gloomhaven second edition with some extras. They had the little mini game.
Yeah. And the bugs and buttons and bugs.
Buttons and bugs or bugs and buttons. Also the miniatures,
and then the role-playing game, the miniatures. Yeah. You could get all of it. Like this was a big campaign for them, and it raised like $5 million.
$5 million.
And this was not even for like a core like Haven game. So a lot of like that's pretty good for when you're like considering that a lot of people already own Gloomhaven. I'd love to see the breakdown and how many people like got the second edition who already had the first edition. I have no idea what that percentage is, but I would like to know. I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't know if they might not even know that, but yeah,
they might not.
There's got to be some good overlap there. But yeah, it was a big campaign. The next one we want to talk about is also, I mean, all of these honestly are pretty close to our hearts.
We picked these because we love them and they did well. Yeah. There's kind of a balance of like games that we really enjoyed. And yeah, this was Dice Throne Missions, which is, I think, for me, this was the inclusion of the X-Men, which that's, the mission stuff is cool, but getting the X-Men into Dice Throne is huge for me. I'm a huge X-Men fan.
Yeah, this was the Marvel Dice Throne campaign this year and included missions, the co-op. It was absolutely massive. It did $4.2 million. And when will this be delivering?
Next year,
all
probably?
Of these are looking like sometime 2024.
Yeah,
the other good news about crowdfunding these days is there's not a lot of ridiculous COVID-based delays anymore.
Well, supposedly. People still say, whatever. That's neither here nor there. Hopefully these all come on time
going forward, we've all had our struggles over the last 3 years.
I hope people do. And then the next one, though, actually came out really early this year. It was like back in March, and this was Elder Scrolls, the board game, Betrayal of the Second Era from Chip Theory Games.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. Of course, you've got two huge things going for this. Well, for one, Elder Scrolls is huge. And for second, Chip Theory Games has, again, their huge following. This was like $4.6 million raised on this game.
Yeah, they have a huge following. And not only that, they probably have one of the most loyal followings, even of the people we've talked about.
Sure.
I mean, the Dice Throne people pretty loyal too.
Yeah, they're passionate. We've seen passion come out of Dice Throne.
People who play Chip Theory games play Chip Theory games.
Oh yeah,
they don't not play any of the.
It's like, are you a board gamer? No, but I play Chip Theory games.
Right,
That's it.
Exactly.
They've got a whole stack. No, I mean, and Jeremy is like that. Like Jeremy will play. It's like if it's got Chip Theory on it, he'll give it at least try it because like they've proven themselves again and again. And this takes a lot of like the Chip Theory, fundamentals, like with the, the way the looks and the production and the chips and everything, and puts it like in Elder Scrolls. So, like that seems like an easy.
It doesn't hurt that it's Elder Scrolls.
Right, it doesn't hurt at all. And it's amazing to me that's Elder Scrolls, like just the power of that brand is so high.
Well, I mean, think of the last game, Skyrim, the video game. People still play it And it's what? More than a decade old?
I think new versions of Skyrim are still coming out.
I think I just read that the other day. The last one also is probably the king of established fan bases.
The last one of the big. We have a few more.
Of the big ones. We do have a few more, but the last one of the ones where we're talking about the numbers that they did.
Oh yeah, biggest. This is the biggest campaign of the year for sure.
And it's actually still running as of right this second. It might not be by the time you see this.
If you're watching this live, or the day it posts, it's still live for like a day or two. It's Nemesis Retaliation.
Nemesis Retaliation
$8 million.
from Awaken Realms. It's $8.1 million right now.
And it's not even in that last like 48 where they get that huge kick.
It'll probably finish out stronger than that. We'll see if it gets. I don't know that it's going to get to 9, but we'll see what
it could get to 9. It could. I don't know that it will.
Again, this is Awaken Realms. They've got such a built-in fan base that they have their own crowdfunding platform with GameFound. And it's Nemesis, like one of the highest-rated games on BGG.
Yeah.
They had Lockdown and this. We've covered it on the channel. You've probably heard about it. But, yeah, this is a big campaign. What a way to finish out the year, for
sure. So those are 5, I think, of like the biggest ones. But we also wanted to talk about 5 that like really struck us, that we were really excited about it, that we really enjoyed. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay.
This one is actually, I know we've abused the term near and dear to our heart, but this one was because it's from a couple first-time designers, Unfriendly Games, and this one's Nekojima. This one is a dexterity game. We've covered it here on the channel. We just finally got delivered. That's the other cool thing. This is a small publisher. They did a lot of the heavy lifting.
Oh, yeah.
Like building it, packing it, putting it together. This isn't like a traditionally manufactured thing in some respects.
And that collector's edition they put together was absolutely fabulous.
Wooden
with that wooden box and that shrine, that wooden shrine.
Yeah, it is a really, really fun dexterity game. And it was also no slouch. This did $206,000, which for a first-time campaign, fantastic.
Well, first-time campaign and like such a unique, interesting, like this is definitely, it's a dexterity game. So like that's a unique experience that they're selling there.
We took this to a small gathering of content creators early in the year, and we were playing it. The campaign was still running. People were backing it as they were playing, or as they were even watching it being played.
I played my last night at PAX. We played for hours. We just played straight, like we just played
2-player.
We did a little bit of both.
Teams is the way to go. Teams is the way to go.
All right, and the one I want to talk about that and if you watched all of our crowd control episodes, you've seen me rave about this. It's TMNT, the role-playing game. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which, I mean, I'm a huge Turtles fan. In fact, we just watched Mutant Mayhem. Again, Oliver and I watched it last night.
Great movie.
Seen it so many times. It's a fantastic movie. And I absolutely love everything to do with the Turtles. Have my whole life. So the fact that they're re-bringing out this role-playing game that was near and dear to me as a kid, now I can get this crazy deluxe collector's edition. Like I do with like a lot of TMNT stuff. You weren't here when we talked about it. I went all in on like The Last Ronin. I have all like the director's cut hardcover Last Ronin issues. Like I'm a big fan, so this is going to look really good on the shelf, and it's something that I can play with Oliver as he gets a little older too, because he loves Turtles as well. So I'm very excited about getting this one, and it did really well as well. It did. I don't remember the exact number, like 1.2 million.
All of these did really well in their own right.
Yeah.
The last one I want to talk about is Santorini, the Deluxe Pantheon Edition. This one, I'm a big Santorini fan. Yeah. You watch the channel, you know it. It's high on my top 50 list for sure. I don't know if Santorini's still in my top 10. I can't remember.
But this one might be though, right?
Well, they added co-op. So it had the Riddle of the Sphinx, which was this whole co-op campaign. Kind of a theme we're seeing here. We saw that with this. We saw that with Dice Throne Missions. Very puzzly co-op that takes really effectively the rules of Santorini and miraculously applies them to a co-op that you can play by yourself, you can play with other people. Gorgeous production.
Absolutely.
I think Santorini, I mean, many people who follow crowdfunding will remember that the Santorini campaign was probably one of the first campaigns to actually knock it out of the park. Not this one, the original one, in terms of the way the campaign page looked, all these animations, and now everyone does that.
Sure.
But they did it at the time, and it was just like, whoa, I don't even know what this game is, but I'm getting it.
And they brought a level of production to an abstract board game that we hadn't really seen before, too. So the Santorini was just great overall.
Yeah, and again, no slouch. It did $1.5 million, and this is a game, based on a smaller game that's been out for so long that you can get the original like at Target for like $15 or $20.
All right, well, my next one didn't do as well because it's a pretty niche game, but this is Barrage. This is Duel and the Colorado River expansion, which I've had the chance to play both the Duel version and the Colorado River expansion. I Love Barrage. I am a herald for Barrage. I'm trying to get everyone to play Barrage.
He is.
It's on BGA. Go play Barrage. I think that this is a game that when it came out, it did have a fan base, but it is a little heavier. It is a little more complicated.
It is heavier.
But once people get over that barrier, I think a lot of people really do love it, and we get a lot of people that we've kind of grown. Like our Barrage group started with like 2 players. Now we could pretty easily find a 4-player game of Barrage or a 5-player game of Barrage.
Ryan has been slowly building a small group of people that will play Barrage with him.
It's so true because one of my best friends, Artie, we play Barrage a lot, and we want to use everything. But it's like every time we want to use everything, we got to get people that can get started. So it's like we try to get it like a funnel of people that will try the early stuff, and then like we'll add expansions as we play. And it's just a great game. But now with Duel, we can just play 2 players and it works really well.
I like the idea of you and Artie sitting there strategizing. Okay, how are we going to get this person into Barrage?
That's not a conversation that's happened. So
anyway,
that's 9.
That's 9.
That's
that's
9.
right. We had one more big one.
We want to round out with one that we both.
This was a shared one.
Loved.
This is an earlier campaign this year.
Yeah.
It's Scholars of the South Tigris. This is the next game from Garfield Games. Of course, by now they probably have their next campaign about to launch.
Inventors of the South Tigris is coming out
Inventors
soon,
is coming, I think, early next year on crowdfunding. But Scholars is unique for me, at least, in that it's probably one of, if not the heaviest of their games at that point. I think they've maybe released another one. Ezra and Nehemiah might be a little heavier.
But I would consider that kind of a different.
But in those trilogies, I think this is maybe heavier than Wayfarers.
Yeah.
But the theme really pulled this thing together, and I'm not generally a heavy gamer, but man, oh man,
I was going to say,
Scholars.
is this the heaviest game that you would let you love, quote unquote?
Yeah.
Like, do you think this is the heaviest game that you would regularly play?
I think so, because it's so digestible because of the theme that it doesn't even feel heavy to me. But it is a heavy game.
And it's not like, yes, the theme, but also there's a lot in that game that just feels very natural.
That's what I mean. The theme and the mechanics just flow.
It just works like expected. The worst thing about some games is like when things are not intuitive and you're like, well, if I do this, it follows that. And then like, no, it doesn't. But in Scholars, and actually in a lot of his games, it follows, like you can almost logically be like, well, if I do this, then this is the outcome. And it generally does follow that path, especially, again, because you know the theme. So that was a really a knockout for that campaign.
Yeah, and it has delivered. So you'll probably see this on at least some of our top 10 lists at the end of the year. But that is the 10 games that we wanted to talk about today, or campaigns rather. These were some of the big ones, some of the exciting ones, some of the ones that we just love. If you have any questions about any of them, some of them might even be still late pledging. Who knows?
Yeah, some of them are, I think, actually.
Or if you have any campaigns you think like, wow, how did you guys not talk about this one? Because I'm sure you're out there.
We picked our 10 favorite ones. I'm sorry that yours wasn't our favorite.
But let us know in the comments below what was your favorite campaign. And we will see you next week on another episode of Crowd Control, where we talk about 2024.
Bye.